The IPL fixing scandal adjourned till 1st of December, but there were scathing remarks made on N Srinivasan by the Supreme Court. The top court has asked for details of shareholding of N Srinivasan and his family members in India Cements. We've got our reporters joining us live on this story. Meenakshi from the Supreme Court. We've also got Harini as well as Shabir tracking the story. Meenakshi, I'm going to come first to you. Very quickly take us through the scathing observations that were made by Supreme Court, not just on N Srinivasan today, but also on the future of Chennai Super Kings.
Well, yes, absolutely, Tanvi. You know, today was a day wherein if owners of CSK and Srinivasan in particular had hoped for some breather, clearly that was not coming their way today. And furthermore, the Supreme Court has today pushed them in a corner. And such was the extent of Supreme Court's displeasure, Tanvi, that it is absolutely astounding the kind of observations pertaining to this aspect of conflict of interest that has come by from the top court. Also, what is very interesting is how the court has questioned repeatedly CAB in this particular instance to bring forth the principles or the provisions which exist under BCCI under which Mr. Srinivasan can be disbarred. Remember, these are all possibilities for now that the court is looking at. This is not in the nature of an order yet, but at the same time, these are observations which has today given a clear indication how the court is viewing Mr. Srinivasan's role in particular.
Absolutely, these are observations and not the final judgment, but still very, very scathing remarks. The Supreme Court cracking the whip there. Harini, it also puts question mark on the future of Chennai Super Kings and also raises questions about MS Dhoni himself being on the management of India Cements and yet playing cricket for CSK.
Story pair.
Harini, if you can hear me, that question was for you. Big questions being raised on the future of Chennai Super Kings as well as MS Dhoni being on the management of India Cements.
Well, if I could hear the question right, of course it puts doubts over the future of two franchises in IPL, that's Chennai Super Kings and Rajasthan Royals, especially with the fact that beyond doubt it's been proven in the Mudgal Committee probe panel that Gurunath Mayappan was a team official, and also Raj Kundra, co-owner of the Rajasthan Royals, was somebody who had close contact with the bookies, which is a clear indicator of violation of the IPL corruption code, and that clearly raises the question which exactly was raised by the Apex Court, stating why no action was taken against both the franchise. In fact, the court also going on to state that it would have been easier to disqualify Chennai Super Kings if there was any guilt that has been established, and the fact is court has minced no words by stating what's been mentioned in the Mudgal probe report is gospel truth, and that's what they're going to go by. So clearly putting doubts over the future of both the IPL franchise.
Right, absolutely. And Shabir has been tracking N Srinivasan for us. Shabir, he's gone underground at this point, completely not reachable?
Well, he doesn't want to react to the observations that have been made in the Supreme Court. In fact, people close to him do tell us that they are waiting for an order because at this point in time, they really don't want to react and antagonize the Supreme Court. Clearly, N Srinivasan is keeping away from the media, not willing to comment on the scathing observations that have been made in the Supreme Court. But definitely, this has put N Srinivasan in some sort of a corner as far as the questions that have been raised in the Supreme Court regarding the conflict of interest, and the Supreme Court has sought details of the shareholding pattern and also who the real owner of the CSK is, because there is a lot of ambiguity on who owns the CSK, the Chennai Super Kings, because it was said that Gurunath Mayappan was not the owner.
In fact, Shabir, since you brought up the point of the ownership of Chennai Super Kings and of course the conflict of interest, I just want to bring in our guest Hemant Kenkre also on this. Even this is where we can see some amount of, or hope some amount of transparency comes into IPL with some ownership details of these franchises also coming out.
Absolutely, and as I said earlier, so there was in the past has been a situation where a franchisee was debarred from the league because of ambiguity again on ownership issues. Having said that, I think very critically, I think it's also going to impact the game economically, because I don't think any brand would now like to be associated with somebody who's supposed to be tainted. We've just heard a story about a top electronics brand getting out of the FIFA World Cup as of now. And if that can happen at that level, I don't think, tomorrow it's going to affect the IPL and, of course, the franchisees, whichever the ones which, sort of have a question mark or a cloud hanging above them, people like, CSK or Rajasthan Royals, economically. And I don't think that's a good sign for cricket.
Right, absolutely. In fact, Hemant, thanks for joining us, and thanks to all our reporters. Also, the big question, of course, is with the Supreme Court observing that the polls or the elections for BCCI should go ahead and those under scrutiny should not be included. Is it time up for Srinivasan? That is going to be a big story.